Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your host, Preacher Moss, the host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. I'm coming to you today. Show is pre-recorded, just so you know. The show is pre-recorded. We would definitely welcome your comments and ideas. This is a follow-up show to yesterday. We talked about the Great Replacement Theory. What I did not do, and I would like to apologize to everybody publicly, is I talked a lot about the intricacies of this Great Replacement Theory. I talked about what the personal implications are. I gave some historical narrative, but I didn't show you what it looked like in real time. And when I say I didn't show you what it looked like in real time, the politics, the realm of where it's affecting us right now. The Buffalo shooting, sadly, was an outgrowth of this Great Replacement Theory, but it's also been behind a lot of other things. We could talk about the march in Charlotte. We could talk about the young man in Kenosha, where people are learning at a very young age that at some point in time they're not going to matter. Thus, it creates a us versus them scenario, as we've talked about at length, the zero-sum theory, that if I have something and you have something, then you took something from me and I should have more. This is the bedrock of replacement theory, but I thought it was really, really important to be able to lay out some things. So today's show is called Why Hate is Good Business. We are looking at a revisitation of a cottage industry, much the same as the prison industrial complex, where people are able to frame hate, insecurity, anxiety into business, whether it's books, whether it's shows, whether it's podcasts, and now you have this proliferation of quote unquote free speech. And free speech is not to be concerned or be confused with journalism. These people are not necessarily doing research. They are espousing the things that they believe, and espousing the things they believe, they fear either it's going to be revealed as not fact or it's not going to be accepted as not fact. And so you have there's a galvanization. They galvanize with other things in political space, in the social space, whereby it gives them different pathways to present this venom. Yesterday, when we started speaking, I pointed out something, and I didn't get to it, but I want to get to it now. I remember, and I will always remember, the Mike Wallace interview with Malcolm X in the Nation of Islam. There was a great article. It was something called the hate that brought hate, something like that. The hate that created hate. And it was this whole idea that the Nation of Islam had this affinity to hate white people, as opposed to really, really look at the surroundings. We're talking about there were no, deep analytical tests that were coming from the African American community. There was no research. The research was the realm of what was going on then. And when you had legalized segregation and promoted racism and Jim Crow, you didn't need a research project. You didn't need analysis. You can go outside your door. You can go to your job and understand that the laws were arranged in a way, aligned in a way whereby it allowed for the oppression, particularly of African Americans at this point in time. But they don't show you enough, and we should look at the speech where Malcolm X asked, "Who taught you to hate yourself?" He said, "Who taught you to hate yourself?" And I thought the thing that was more important about who taught you to hate yourself was that he was saying we're not loving ourselves enough. We're not loving ourselves in the space of the oppressor. That love causes, if you will, pause. It causes uncertainty. It causes a little bit of uncertainty in terms of how do you deal with a person that loves themselves. Furthermore, for religious people, how do you deal with a person that loves God and God loves them? It leaves them in a space where they can't communicate in that conversation. There's nothing to add when you put hate there. Thus, the game these days is to create pockets and create affiliations and create opportunities where people don't love themselves. And the only thing in the absence of love is not anxiety, sadness, depression. For these people, you have all those things, excuse me, but it manifests itself in hate. Too often we sat back and watched politics demonize and weaponize religion, weaponize gender, weaponize all these things because there is an agenda at the end of it. An agenda at the end of it is that there's a perception that power lies at the end of these things. And we religious people, we say, no, you're going to pay for your sins, but these people don't believe in sin. These people don't believe that they sin. And that they believe that they don't sin means that they have no real connection or relationship with God because their God only serves their needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that I pulled up. I didn't show yesterday. But it was important to be able to show you the damage, the potential threat of this great replacement theory, because you have folks, and let me be very clear, I've explained it and tried to explain it because they're going to be folks that get no explanation. And all they're going to be able to do is have some kind of a emotional reprieve to what's been given to them, much the same as we talked about the absence of love. You throw this in with the absence of love, and this is what you get. You get, brothers and sisters, the great replacement theory. Stay tuned. Actually, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Thank you for allowing me to take that break and get the video properly queued up. I want to give a shout out to our shout out family. That is Sister Mary Moss, Mom and Son. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh to you. Assalamu alaikum to Sister Ree, Brother Derek, Brother Jawan. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh to my little brother JT, Johnny L. Thomas. I also want to give a shout out to Miss Eleanor Davis. Also want to give a shout out to the Salahuddin family, Bilal and Sister Sonia Salahuddin. Much love to you. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Altaf, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, our Canadian ambassador to the show. What's the show without you? Also, my main man, my brother, Mark Kennedy, better known as Jelani Locks, who tunes in here and there. Also, assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to Eric Carter, man. We hope that you are doing well. Now, this episode will probably get some trolls. I won't be here, but it doesn't matter, brothers and sisters. We need to be able to have this discussion, and it needs to be sans the people who think that it's okay to bully, it's okay to oppress people, it's okay to weaponize things that God gives us against one another or against a perceived enemy. A sad case several weeks ago, Buffalo, young man, white man, a young boy, I won't even say white man, 18 years old, armed to the teeth, drives over 300 miles, nearly 300 miles from New York to Buffalo to find the zip code that has the highest percentage of African Americans. It was this particular shopping mart, and he exacted this terror, if you will, in killing 10 people and injuring numerous others. This was from the scene afterwards. Now, I'm going to show something to you, and I'm going to show you a couple of videos that are actually pretty disturbing, but we got to get them out. So I'm going to, with your permission, go ahead and put this up. Tune in, and we'll come right back.
Officials believe the gunman accused of the mass shooting in Buffalo was inspired by the white replacement conspiracy theory. Now, this is a baseless belief.
What does it take to be a Shenyun dancer? It takes a mind of steel.
That white people are being slowly but intentionally replaced by minorities and immigrants.
The concept was once a fringe theory, but now it's embraced by many Republican lawmakers and Fox hosts. CNN's Sunlan Sirfati explains.
What was once a fringe white supremacist conspiracy theory has now become mainstream.
We know what the Democrats are up to here. They want open borders. This is exactly their strategy. They want to replace the American electorate.
With a growing number of Republican lawmakers now openly promoting the far-right so-called Great Replacement theory.
For many Americans, what seems to be happening, or what they believe right now is happening, is what appears to them is we're replacing national-born American, native-born Americans to permanently transform the political landscape of this very nation.
The racist anti-immigrant theory that says non-white immigrants are being brought to replace America's white population.
This administration wants complete open borders, and you have to ask yourself why. Is it really they want to remake the demographics of America?
Democrat politicians who have decided that they can't win re-election in 2022 unless they bring in a large number of new voters to replace the voters that are already here. That's what this is about.
The white nationalist conspiracy theory is detailed in French writer Renaud Camus' 2011 book called The Great Replacement, and elements of replacement theory appear to have motivated some of the most heinous recent mass murders in the U.S. and around the world. Just this weekend, an 18-year-old man accused of shooting and killing 10 people in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, allegedly wrote a manifesto online claiming ethnic and cultural replacement of whites. The gunman, accused of killing more than 20 people at an El Paso Walmart in 2019, allegedly uploaded a document on the internet before the shooting, saying, quote, "This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. They are the instigators, not me. I am simply defending my country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought on by the invasion." The man, who allegedly killed 11 people at a Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018, spouted nonsense on social media about Jewish people being somehow responsible for immigrant, quote, invaders. And the shooter, who killed 51 people at a mosque and Islamic center in Christchurch, New Zealand, named his own manifesto the Great Replacement. The theory has been amplified by voices on Fox News.
I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No. This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
And openly defended by name by sitting members of Congress.
So you get a better idea of it and a historical narrative. This goes back to 2018, New Zealand, Pittsburgh, Wisconsin. You begin to see that this thing is not isolated. You know, they didn't show the young man in Kenosha, but there's this idea that people are defending themselves against, quote unquote, the encroachment of minorities into the United States, immigrants into the United States, which is the first thing from the truth. Immigration numbers have been down for a while. You had the Muslim ban, so you begin to see it doesn't make any sense. What it is, though, is that it allowed people to have this thing ruminate in their minds that somehow they're out to be replaced. Question is, who really wants to replace you? If you don't have a job and I have a job, I don't want to replace you. If you're underclass or impoverished and I have money, I'm middle class or upper middle class, I don't want to replace you. In fact, in my religious genealogy, you are the person I'm supposed to help. You are the person I'm supposed to give a hand up. But now you have this bastardization of this whole idea of who is who. And to make it a voting rights issue, in the word of Tucker Carlson, is blasphemy. You know, because that's what white folk in that position do, evidently. They're blasphemous. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. I'm going to show you guys something that is the political part of it. I call this politics and religion. But I would encourage everybody to take a look at this because it's happening right now. Like not yesterday, not 10 years ago. This is right now in our countries, in our pulpits, if you will. In fact, I'm not going to put that one up, but I messed up. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. But think about this. Watch this clip and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Stay tuned. I can't make this stuff up.
Here's where a lot of this radicalization and terrorism of white killers who would like to kill black people, here's where it comes from. Here it is.
I'm to the place right now. If you vote Democrat, I don't even want you around this church. You get out. You get out, you demon. You get out, you baby butchering election thief. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. I don't care how mad that makes you. You get pissed off as you want to. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. They are God-denying demons that butcher babies and hate this nation. They hate this nation. Get mad all you want to. I don't care if you stand, I don't care if you throw tomatoes, praise God. I'm about to throw a microphone up in this house. CNN, get my dirty socks. You cannot be a Democrat and a Christian. You cannot. Somebody say amen. Rest of you, get out. Get out. Get out in the name of Jesus. I ain't playing your stupid games. Bunch of devils. I'm sick of it.
He also threatened physical violence. Here it is.
Hey, we'll talk about the insurrection. Let me tell you something. You ain't seen the insurrection yet. You keep on pushing our buttons, you low-down, sorry compromisers. You God-hating communists, you'll find out what an insurrection is, because we ain't playing your garbage. We ain't playing your mess. My Bible says that the church of the living God is an institution that the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And the Bible says that we'll take it by force. That's what the Bible says.
Okay. Don't know what church you're part of. And it really doesn't matter, brothers and sisters, because this is the weaponization of religion. You see, religion and religiosity and relationships with higher power are supposed to liberate the soul. This is not liberating the soul. This is confusing the soul. This is not Shaitan being angry, but Shaitan being effective. Leaning on the lesser part of our intellect, leaning on the lesser part of our compassion and our mercy. Now, take compassion and mercy out of it. I accidentally erased a really important, I want to say a really important video. And it was a preacher talking about the LGBTQ. And he literally said that LGBTQ stood for let them burn quickly. This is what's out there. And this is not too far away. This is like 2018. And there's a popularization. And let me explain what this is. This is the equivalent of a race fundraiser. This is the equivalent of a hate drive whereby people are leaning on lesser folks, that you stand in the pulpit and you tell people that if you're not with my rendition of how God is empowering me, then you're out. Get out. There are folks who have been displaced from churches because they refuse to go along to get along. And I will say this as a person of faith, it is scary. You know, we have these people in all the religions now. Because we got them in Islam, and you know the DNA or the standard operation procedure is that somehow all of these people are wrong except for you. Somehow there's a space in the Quran that we all read, or a space in the Bible or Torah that we've all read. Somehow my interpretation is beyond everybody. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find that these people are actually people of knowledge or scholars and things like that. I don't think they're even that. I think that these are people that have installed themselves in these churches. You know, one of the hallmarks of these type of people is that they don't have large populations. They need to live stream, have podcasts, and what they do is when they get big enough, they find a political entity that can promote their brand of religion or their brand of quote unquote American exceptionalism. And then they hold them hostage and they ride them all the way in Congress right now. If you saw the first part of the Great Replacement Theory I love that CNN ran them all together because they're all saying the same thing. They're all talking, all dealing from the same, I want to say, talking points. And I think we need to look at that. We need to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, hold on. These are not, for lack of a better word, these are not values that are, I want to say, that built this country. You know, we can have our conversation or disagreements about the Constitution, constitutional law, but at some point in time, even for white people, constitutional law worked. These things worked. That they aspire, even though they were disingenuous to other groups, at least it worked for them. Now you see the fracturing where it doesn't even work for people who are the same ilk. White people in suburban neighborhoods are now at war with other white people in suburban neighborhoods. Intellectuals are now at war with other intellectuals. Of course, the politicians have been that way for quite a long time. My point, though, is where do we fit in the mix? If we're not at a place of political expediency and we're not at a place where we have social impetus, where do we fit in? And the question is, do we need to fit in? The question is, as we begin to look further and further down the line, these are the people that are occupying the airways. You see, we have BET and we have TV One, but BET and TV One do not have the political ascendancy to go out and combat all of these things. It's just like the old fable of a guy who backbit another man. He said something falsehood about the man and told everybody. And when he comes to redeem himself with the man, because he repents, he comes to redeem himself to make this man whole. He says he's sorry, and the guy doesn't necessarily buy it, and he tries to explain to him the damage he had actually done. And the metaphor is he takes a pillow, they go to a rooftop, takes a pillow, rips the pillow open, all the feathers fly out. And they stand there for a little bit of time, and the guy says, for you to repair what you did to me, you need to go out and collect every feather. And not only collect every feather, that every feather has to be in the exact pristine condition that it was when it came out of this pillow. The feathers have to be the same way. They can't be dirty. They have to be arranged in the pillow in its original content. So what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, when this type of thing goes out, it's impossible to fix. This is the diabolical nature of misinformation. Once misinformation goes out about someone or a subject or a belief, very few people are going to have the ethic to try and even think about how you put it all back together to get back to the truth. Thus, the only people that can speak to the truth are sadly the folks who have been affected the most. And ironically, these are the folks who are just not able. These are folks that are just not able to, for lack of a better word, will themselves to undo the damage that's been done. So we're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Stick with us. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the Smart Patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just gotta hear "Don't Get the COVID."
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient
Urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, and we're back. So listen, the video that I had originally erased. Sorry, I clicked the tab and it went away. Listen, I bought it up. Now, let me just say before I show this is disturbing. It's disturbing, but it has a financial base to it, which makes it double disturbing. It's disturbing because people are looking for a limelight. People are looking for a pathway, a lifeline to be able to take this thing and grow power. And with the power, of course, comes money and fame and all those things and notoriety. This guy reminds me of a man several years ago down in Florida who brought a lot of notoriety to himself because he claimed to be burning the Quran. He made a big deal about burning the Quran, and the Muslims reacted, oh, blah, 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 and he was, I'm going to burn the Quran, and he made it a big thing. He got into national media, and he burned the Quran, and I was like, okay, well, what's the game behind this? He could have burned the Quran and just quietly, but nobody would have reacted. Nobody would have known. Of course, you put it out in the space because you want it to be inflammatory. You want to get emotional reaction. Did anyone bother to look at his church? This man's church only had like 12 members, and I think 3 or 4 of those were related to him. And this was a way, brothers and sisters, and clearly, he didn't go to any seminary. He didn't study divinity. He didn't have a master's or BA. He didn't have an associate's degree in ministry. He just started a church on his own because he was divinely inspired. And this man who was divinely inspired, but damn sure dumb, got everybody's attention. I say this, and I said, this is the last level, brothers and sisters, the last level of civility when people start weaponizing religion. Pay attention. This is disturbing. We're going to go out after the show.
No homos will ever be allowed on this church as long as I'm the pastor here.
I'll put it this way. Any man who would have sex with a man would have sex with a man. That is true. About 5 or 10 years ago, a lot of the stuff that I preached, people thought it was too radical.
Now, to me, LGBT stands for let God burn them.
Right. But now they're starting to see, oh, wow, he's right.
But you say, well, it's LGBTQ. Well, then you could say, let God burn them quickly.
I think what makes our church special is just how the preaching is totally unfiltered.
I don't have any advice for homosexuals except to put a bullet in your own head so that you don't molest my kids or anyone else's kids.
Uncensored, just raw Bible preaching. And that's what people are looking for.
Hey, what's up? Gotta get live streaming for Facebook.
All right, so I just want to cut it there because I don't want to lend any more credibility to this platform. I'm sure he's been plowed through by people who have common sense. But it's just the fact that you have people like this who are not original in a closed space in a marketplace, and now you see where they're trying to outdo one another. And it's the same thing with politics. You're trying to outdo one another. Just the bane of lying because you want to get somewhere, because you want notoriety, to the point where you now have preachers that turn in on one another going, you're lying. It's almost like the old issue between the KKK. There were times when people who wanted power said, well, you're not racist enough. And so we have the same thing staring us in the face now. But that's our show for today. I just want you to think. I'll be back on Monday, inshallah. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.